Matthew Tkachuk is no longer in a non-contact jersey. How effective will he be? And who's actually the favorite in the Battle of Florida? Part 4.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, April 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at @LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, and if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button down below. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers, and it's game week. The Florida Panthers will be back in action, but we still have to wait one more day until the Florida Panthers play in a playoff game, as the games have already begun, and some game twos will be conducted tonight right before the Florida Panthers play their first game of the series on Tuesday night. And want to apologize for a late release on the Monday show. I usually want to get a show out early to set up the postseason for you guys, especially with how much we are waiting. But I did drop off my car at the shop to get an oil change, tire rotation, and everything, because us here at the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast will be boots on the ground the entire first round between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, traveling between both cities back and forth. And I'm very excited to bring the coverage to you guys for the entirety of the first round. Today on the show, we are going to discuss Matthew Tkachuk shedding his non-contact jersey and being placed back in the top 6. How effective can he be in his return to the lineup? The first game that he's played in a Florida Panthers sweater since February 8th. Also in segment 2, we are going to discuss another key to the Florida Panthers on how to beat Andrei Vasilevskiy and how they did it last year compared to this year. And also in segment number 3, we are going to discuss more of how the Panthers could beat the Lightning and discuss everything when it comes to who's actually the favorite, who the experts and the betting public are betting for the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning in this 4th edition of the Battle of Florida. So a lot to get into on today's edition of the show. So yes, Matthew Tkachuk didn't have the non-contact jersey on Saturday in their practice, did not have the non-contact jersey today, as the Panthers hit the ice at 11 a.m. from Baptist Health Iceplex in Fort Lauderdale. Now, it looks like all systems go, and that Matthew Tkachuk is, in fact, playoff ready for the Florida Panthers, as they took the ice, and they're about to speak to the media later, which we'll discuss maybe more of in our crossover with Josh Sperber of Locked On Lightning, and then they'll be taking the short flight from South Florida to Tampa to start the series on Tuesday night, 8:30 on ESPN. So, as expected, he's back on the second line with Sam Bennett and Mackie Samoskevich. Brad Marchand still on that line with Anton Lundell and Attila Starainen. And was always curious to see who was going to be on that 4th line, whether it was going to be AJ Greer, whether it was going to be Jesper Bokas. And again, the fact that Evan Rodriguez, Stanley Cup final hero for the Panthers, a point per game in the 7-game series, he's placed on the 4th line along with Jesper Boquist. The goal for the Panthers is to match speed for speed, as far as even Paul Maurice even spoke about it to the media, how Tampa Bay provides more of that heavy game that speed game, while Boston during their time of facing them is more of that heavy game for them. So that this is what the matchup provides for what the Panthers are going up against in this series. So when it comes to Matthew Tkachuk, a lot of people forget of how much he ended his regular season on the high note for the Florida Panthers, scoring a goal in 7 of his last 8 games and including 6 in a row, and even carried that over to the very first game of the Four Nations when I was about to say the Florida Panthers, when Team USA took on Team Finland in that first game on that Thursday, where Matthew Tkachuk and Brady both scored in that one. But it's crazy to think whenever you think about being long-term, a lower body injury, which we assume it's a groin, which, again, takes a long time to heal, and it's just doing a whole lot of nothing before that part of the body heals for itself. And the thing is, we spoke about the Panthers and their lack of power play scoring from their blue line. 0 power play goals in the regular season. But even after the injury to Matthew Tkachuk, Matthew finished second on the team in power play goals. As you could expect, who was number 1 for the Panthers there? Sam Reinhart. And this isn't as extreme of a situation of a player going missing and then nobody able to make up the goals, like what happened with the Minnesota Wild when Kirill Kaprizov did get hurt, and he was still the team's leading goal scorer at the time of his injury, which was in on and off for him throughout like December, and then coming back and then getting injured again. But this is not the same situation. The Panthers do have Sam Reinhart, who's parked in that bumper position, but at the same time, you're Alexander Barkov was in and out of the lineup. You're switching Carter Verhaeghe on that left flank on the power play to Mackie Semiskevich, who provides you a different, less predictability when it comes to a right-handed shot and not knowing where the puck is going to be, where it's going to land when it gets released off of his tape for him. So that's a thing for the Panthers that's going to be really important for their power play. When Matthew Tkachuk did go out with the injury in before the Four Nations, the Panthers were ranked 9th in the NHL on the power play. During that span, from the first game on February 22nd to the end of the regular season, and those numbers are going to look skewed in a certain way with the injury, and also the fact that the Panthers were resting a lot of players. That number went all the way to not the average number, but in that span, that number was 19th in the NHL. They averaged out to still be 14th in the NHL, and also, let's not forget that the time that they've played with one another, Alexander Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk, that play that they like to pull from Barkov on the flank to Matthew Tkachuk down below and then feed it right to the middle, that is something that we are going to see them get back to often while that unit is together on the power play. And I do believe that this is a unit that can not, I don't want to use the word flipping the switch, because flipping the switch, it creates that perception of laziness, and that they are just and I don't necessarily like to use the word coasting. I mean, we saw in the 3 out of the 4 home games for the Panthers at the end of the regular season, where it was still the Panthers still taking things very seriously. And honestly, when they lost the lead to the New York Rangers, that's where it's like, okay, going back to the mindset of rest and getting things right. And when it comes to the Panthers here, so it creates such a negative connotation when it comes to the Panthers, and the term coasting, or taking things easy is the better way to sprinkle things around it. But also this power play unit, this is going to be the first time that Matthew Tkachuk and Seth Jones will be on the same power play unit, and with how much movement they like to use, with going from Sam Reinhart from the bumper and then switching him off to below the goal line, and then Matthew Tkachuk bringing it back and curling up to the circle as well. How is Seth Jones going to predict Matthew Tkachuk going over there? So that's going to be key to what happens whenever they are on the man advantage for them. And the thing is, we spoke about PIM differential in the regular season, which Tampa Bay is towards the lower third, while the Panthers are towards the upper third in PIM differential. But like someone in the comments did say, these things do change in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It might be a little bit of that in game 1, which could fall to the advantage of, honestly, the Tampa Bay Lightning, because of how much they want to set the tone. These post-whistle scuffles. We're going to see a lot of also 4-on-4 time, because you're going to see, oh, this number is going to go to the box for roughing, and then this one is going to go into the box for roughing. We're going to see that. It's going to be a lot less of that as the series goes on. But how can the Panthers also take advantage of little 4-on-4 time whenever in the beginning of the series that does come to play? But we are going to see a little bit of that power play time, which, again, I do like the foot speed of Seth Jones to protect the puck at the blue line, and also to get pucks from low to high as well, to at least create something in front of the net and take the eyes away from Andrei Vasilevskiy, which has been which the Tampa Bay Lightning have been a lot better at with him. And like I said, the Mackie Samoskevich creating that lack of predictability compared to Carter Verhaeghe, which he's more of the outside shooter from distance. I do believe that teams across the NHL have caught on to him, and the fact that it's a new face on that unit for the Panthers, especially with if they try to go on glove side, far side for Mackie, I think that could be effective. And the thing is, the Panthers do have to control entries on the man advantage for them, which we'll discuss on zone entries in segment number 2 and where they actually rank there. If the Panthers are having to dump the puck while on the power play, they're going to be in big trouble. Not so much in 5-on-5, but you got to make sure that you control your entries there for them, because there's also a lot of time that the Tampa Bay Lightning do spend in their own end compared to the Panthers of how much they spend in their offensive zone, which we're going to discuss more of that in segment number 2, where the Panthers do have the actual advantage and how could they expose the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And the Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, speed, energy in the building, it's next level. Thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. And with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, you name it. Their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows the panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And as you can tell by the tone of my voice, I am so pumped for playoff hockey. I am ready. I'm extremely impatient, just like you guys. But again, like how we did when we conducted our poll on X and on Instagram, a lot of you guys are in agreement for this rest could be beneficial for the Panthers. And honestly, if they drop a game early in this series, this is a time where you're not getting those 2 days off in between the games between these two teams, and you could go right back to playing hockey, especially if you're traveling from city to city. It's get on the plane, travel, and then get right back at it for either of these teams. It's no advantage one way or the other in that sense with the short travel for these two. So the Panthers going into these playoffs and even in the regular season, and this is mostly what I saw from a video on YouTube of a page that I highly recommend you guys watch. It's called Hockey Psychology for the Panthers here and how they control themselves going into the offensive zone, which they have the least amount of controlled entries in the entire NHL at 38%. And also that comes with their play style, what they like to do, getting the pucks in deep. I know that's a phrase used a lot in interviews, but it really, when it comes to the Panthers' bread and butter, this is what it comes down to for getting them deep and going to battle on the forecheck. And this is something that we talked about so much of just setting the tone through training camp and just the grueling first 2 days that Paul Maurice likes to do, and it ended up paying off for them. And the middle six is more known for that group of dumping the puck versus the give and go game of how Barkov and Sam Reinhart like to utilize it more than the other ones, which thankfully for Sam Bennett, he can be his own F1 with how he flips the puck. And the thing about Bennett is how great he is on his edges to get through the D and be that first guy to get to the boards for him. And with Lundell, not the fastest of skaters, but thankfully a a guy in Etu could be that guy to win the race and get it behind the Tampa Bay defense there. And also with Brad Marchand and the puck support that we hope that he brings on that line throughout this series, Anton Lundell can be right there in the middle of the ice to disrupt any breakout passes in the middle and to hopefully create some of these off-script plays. And this is a stat that I saw via NHL Edge, which the Panthers spend 44% of the time in the offensive zone, which is in the 96th percentile, while Tampa Bay is in the 64th percentile of how much they spend in their own offensive zone. So neutral zone play for the Panthers on how you have the blue liners there versus how they step back is gonna be crucial for how the Panthers control things and to not allow the high danger chances on Sergei Bobrovsky for them. And for the Tampa Bay Lightning, really, I'm gonna be curious to see with how the Panthers lack of control in the offensive zone. Are they gonna have that guy ready to check, or are they gonna take that risk in the case of, like I said, Sam Bennett? They get beat and then they create the high danger around Vasilevsky, which Vasilevsky has faced 700 more shots than Sergei Bobrovsky unblocked this season. So that's another key for the Panthers here on just getting the chances unblocked around Vasilevsky. Yeah, does that create more vision for Andre Vasilevsky and his ability to see the pucks? But that's also if you're able to get in the low slot, that's really going to be crucial for the Panthers, and just hopefully it creates the rebound opportunities for them. They're around the same, funny enough, with the rebound opportunities, 0.53 per game. It's the same exact average for the two. So no advantage necessarily there. So when it comes to the time spent in the offensive zone, Panthers are actually second in Corsi for percentage. Carolina is the other team who's just aggressive with how much they can win of their board battles, and it really showed in their first game against the New Jersey Devils, which they do have a major size advantage through the Devils, who's more of a speed-oriented type of team. But here's the thing. The Tampa Bay Lightning are allowing 1.4 less shots per game than last year. They like to run 11-7. Eric Chernak specifically in that series against the Panthers last year had 3 different D partners at different times in the 5 games. Was a total of -1, but his expected goals percentage for him was under 45% when he was paired with Mikhail Sergachev and Nick Perbix for him. He's paired up with Ryan McDonough this time around. Last year, while he was with Emil Lilleberg, that's where the expected goals percentage was over 65% for him. And again, he likely to go 11-7 with the uncertainty of Mitchell Shafee, Luke Glendening, even though he was back in practice for the Tampa Bay Lightning recently, and Oliver Bjorkstrand, who John Cooper said is going to miss the entirety of the series. So it's also whenever I think 11-7 for what the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to do, it's also for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's not overtaxing your D, so you have more opportunities to protect the net front, but there's also not an opportunity to create confusion on whenever there's no whistle, and then they're getting their changes of who's going to be next. You never know who it's going to be for the Tampa Bay Lightning here on, okay, now the Panthers would have to think on the fly on how they want to play when they're coming through speed through the neutral zone as well for him. And for when I think of this pair, the bottom pair for the Tampa Bay Lightning, their expected goals rate is under 50%, and they're minus at 5-on-5. And the thing is, that's going to be crucial on how they get if they're able to get full line changes from getting the pucks in deep, like I mentioned, on their zone time. And also the boys over at Cats and Rats discussed how Ryan McDonough likes to pinch in the offensive zone, and the Panthers aren't necessarily that team who likes to whose forward like to play up near the blue line as much as others. So how much we're not going to see as much cherry picking for the Panthers getting generating off the rush for them and their breakaway opportunities. So I'm expecting that to be at an absolute minimum. But can the Panthers actually expose that with how much Ryan McDonough likes to pinch there? And also, when it comes to Tampa Bay, they have a mix of guys who can go in on the forecheck and also step back and wait for the Panthers to make a mistake off a breakout, which we saw especially in game 82, which for what it's worth doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. But what happens when there's no puck support and everyone is above the hashes and everyone's already at the blue line waiting either for the defenseman to take it up himself or to stretch it out. The Tampa Bay Lightning are more comfortable if you make a mistake, they can go up the gut. And how fast can the Florida Panthers react to get to close up the middle and to create a shot from Tampa Bay that comes from the high slot where Sergei Bobrovsky can be up against the crease and take away the angle where you have little room for something for that. That's going to be interesting to see because every single line for them has a guy who can bang the bodies, win those battles. Like I mentioned, Nikita Kucherov, Brandon Hagel, Nick Paul. Like I said, one person in each of the top 9, and then you have speedsters in each line as well for them. Braden Port especially has killed the Panthers for so many years with that. So what's going to happen when it comes to the middle of the ice? Puck support when it comes to breaking out for the Panthers, because you want to catch them in a change, hopefully, and of course spend more of that time like the Panthers is 96th percentile in the offensive zone for them. So that's going to be key to what the Panthers do. And also the third line for the Panthers on the advantages and the experience against the Tampa Bay Lightning's third line as constructed. Right now, the wingers are Connor Geekie and Gage Gonsalves. Thankfully for Mackey, he is on a line with a whole bunch of experience with Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett. The thing about Tampa Bay's third line as constructed is, Nick Paul has been through the Stanley Cup runs, but Gonsalves and Connor Geekie haven't. This is going to be their first real taste of playoff hockey, and can the Panthers expose that to their advantage with Brad Marchand getting so many playoff games? So that's going to be the key for the Panthers there on how they truly win those matchups for them. John Cooper likes to match the Cirelli line with Barkov. He likes to put a little bit of a mix with Point and Cirelli against them. Point's line is mostly against Bennett's. So that's going to be a key of those guys on. I do believe that they're going to cancel each other out, and that the Panthers. Here's the thing. They're mostly on the nasty side of things versus the speed type of deal for them. And Paul Bissonnette described the Panthers on his podcast of that team that has the tramp stamp tattoo that you just want to go with on one date because that's how nasty they are. He said it, his words, not mine, for the Panthers. And when Matthew Tkachuk is there, you have a Brad Marchand, and how much of the nastiness can they provide without going to the box? That's going to be a key for the Panthers when it comes to them and just avoiding the self-inflicted wounds for them, because we've seen quite a bit here and there on just how many times we've seen at times 3 to 4 times going to the box. Can they avoid that for the Panthers? We saw it in the Battle of Ontario, 6 power play opportunities for the Leafs, which they converted 3 of them in some of those power play goals for them, not even 30 seconds into the power play, which Tampa Bay Lightning is dangerous both at the 5-on-5 point and on the power play, which they were just power play merchants last year. It's not the same thing this year. So that's going to be another key for the Panthers on just how they expose that. But in segment number 3, we are going to discuss who is actually the favorite and what are the experts from multiple media sources saying, and what is the betting public saying as well. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. And did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Pass Ultimate with EA Play included. And if you're ready to play, dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. It's all on your Fire TV with Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode, advanced technology. Fire Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, you can watch 1.5 million movies, TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass, Ultimate subscriptions, and compatible controller required. Available at select devices, including Fire Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Once again, you can do it all at Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Third and final segment here on this Monday, April 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And some news, the Panthers are bringing back their on-ice projections for the postseason, something that they use in the final two rounds in the Eastern Conference Final and the Stanley Cup Final. They're bringing that for the entirety of the playoffs as long as the Panthers are still in it. And also, Benny's Buddies, the foundation that the cause that Sam Bennett is running through every goal that he scores, he's paying for a pet adoption fee. That is going to continue into the postseason for him and the Panthers. So big congrats to Sam Bennett on how he's just trying to make a difference in the world and to find animals a home here at the Broward Humane Society. So question is, who is the favorite actually for this Battle of Florida Part 4, which everyone, this is as much of a coin flip as can be for at least the betting public, which we'll get to in a bit. But first, we're going to start off with some of the outlets. ESPN has 18 of 24 experts picking the Tampa Bay Lightning in this first round for the Battle of Florida. Sportsnet has 16 of 18 picking the Tampa Bay Lightning. Overwhelming favorite for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And in the fourth period, 6 of 9 are picking the Bolts here. And truthfully, I think it's truthfully because of the narrative that Florida is coming in banged up. But like I said, timing when it comes to these injuries is also everything. But like I mentioned, 5v5 scoring, power play. The Panthers have had a hard time scoring most of the season. Who knows what kind of Carter Verhaeghe that the Panthers will see in this. And most of the injuries that the Tampa Bay Lightning are facing right now is their depth guys. It's not the top end guys for the Panthers. So the one missing piece is not even due to injury right now for the Panthers. It's a suspension with Aaron Ekblad not coming back until game 3. This is where it's important for, as of right now constructed, Seth Jones is going to be on that top pair with Gustav Forsling. This is the time for him to show the Panthers what he's made of. And at times he's looked great. There are times where we've seen a few duds. We've had him multiple times on the 3 duds of the game throughout some post-game shows here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But Dmitry Kulikov's had some time on that top pair with Gustav Forsling towards the end of the season. And then we saw a little bit of Nico Mikkola and Seth Jones paired so that when things get back to what they're supposed to be in game 3, they go back to where they are appropriately slotted. And I hope that when it comes to the Panthers and especially that Jones pair, that whenever Tampa Bay is coming up with speed, especially when it comes to when they're coming up the wings, that the Panthers are avoiding these stick infractions like the holds, the trips, the hooks, you name it, because any one of those defensemen in the top 4, if they're the ones going to the box killing penalties, chances are you're going to see Nate Schmidt being the one of the guys of the bottom pair coming in to kill penalties versus Belinskis. I've said it multiple times on the show that I don't necessarily trust Uvis Belinskis to break the puck out of the zone because we've seen too many careless mistakes from him and errors on his part. But that's the part where I'm a little nervous when it comes to that and what's going to happen for when the transition game and the Tampa Bay Lightning when they get in on it. So when it comes to the betting public for the Panthers and Lightning here in round one, this is the only series on FanDuel, by the way, where there isn't a single series prediction. Well, not series winner, excuse me. You could bet on which in how many games, which the only plus side is 6 or 7 for the plus odds. But for an actual series winner, both of them are in the minuses. Minus 115 for the Florida Panthers, minus 104 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Panthers are a slight favorite here for the betting public, which is you guys and everyone else who decides to place their bets on this Battle of Florida. But then when you see bracket challenges around the NHL and people posting their brackets, over 50% of what I've seen of making the Stanley Cup final has seen Tampa Bay or Florida. And then 80% of them, you see a combination of Florida, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. So you'll see a big overwhelming amount of brackets chosen from those three teams, which, like I said, not a single series has been it's the only series that doesn't have a plus as far as the series winner. It's as much of a coin flip. The biggest margin, for those wondering, is the New Jersey Carolina series, which is, even though Markstrom was great, even though he slashed his own player and Cody Glass, which Elliot Friedman said Tanner Glass. I'm like, Panther great Tanner Glass here, which was the pick that the Panthers ended up taking after they tried to draft Alexander Ovechkin. That ended up being the pick. But still, that is the overwhelming gap between the bets on FanDuel, at least from what I've seen here. And for, like I said, 50%, over 80% is one of these, and Toronto looking great in their first game. We joke about the Senators like as a team that could pull the upset because of Toronto's track record, but but from multiple playoff appearances, they look more built for this moment versus Ottawa, this being their first time for them. But Tampa Bay and Florida here, it's collision course, two of the league's standards when it comes to these last 5 years of the winner of this being the representative in the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup final. And these two teams are still quite in their window. I spoke about older guys on the Tampa Bay Lightning, more guys under contract in as far as age 30 and above coming into next year versus 8 of them versus 4. For the Florida Panthers, there's still a lot of unknowns for Florida, with guys coming in, just coming into a game action after not playing a while, or even the fact that although both the luxury is for both of these goaltenders is both of them are having a week's full of rest. Both of Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky's last game came last Tuesday in Tampa Bay for game 82 for the Panthers, game 81 for the Bolts here. But an early offseason is helpful, like we mentioned in our advantages and disadvantages last week with Nick Fairbanks on Fairbanks Friday. So it's not surprising whenever you're seeing the experts from these main media outlets discussing on paper. But again, these games aren't played on paper, and we discussed some of the advantages that the Panthers are going to have when it comes to time spent in their end, and hopefully to take the eyes away from Andre Vasilevsky, that's the hope for the Cats here. And the Stars are going to have to be the Stars here, and that's where we are going to go. At least that's what we hope going into this one for the Panthers here. But hey, this is what the public is looking like. This is what people who are not exactly invested in this series, like like myself and of course you guys listening, that is what the outside people are looking at. But people are giving Florida credit that nothing surprises me whenever people are placing bets on whether it's Tampa Bay in 7, Florida in 7, Florida in 6, and taking a game in Tampa Bay, which if the Florida Panthers do come home with a split, oh man, how pumped that arena will be at 1 p.m. on a Saturday for the Florida Panthers with Ekblad coming back. And the thing is, the Panthers are a better road team this year than Tampa Bay. I know that cancels out throughout the postseason. Yes, I know. But I do like the Panthers' chances on taking more of taking a game on the road versus what the Tampa Bay Lightning can in this series. And it really comes down to setting the tone here. But I'm not going to give my predictions until tomorrow's edition of the show. So you're going to have to wait a little bit more. But this is what the public is saying for this series for between these two teams. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Make sure to come back tomorrow as myself and Josh Sperber of Locked On Lightning will be providing the Lightning perspective of things, and I will obviously bring the Florida Panthers perspective, and we will both be giving our series predictions in this Battle of Florida Part 4. So make sure you come back then. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.